Time had gone by, and years upon years upon years had gone by. Whether Daniel's friends were still alive, no one really knew, but what they did know was Daniel was fairly old at this time. Probably as we think it now, he could have been in his 70s or 80s or maybe even older, but we really don't know. But by this time, Daniel had become a thing of ancient past. People had forgot about him, and people had even forgot about how God had been using him. Well, yeah, Daniel was still involved in a lot of major things in the government. He was pushed aside as something of yesteryear because he was part of the group that Nebuchadnezzar brought from Jerusalem to Babylon in captivity. Now, as time went on, it wasn't just that Daniel had been forgotten. It was the fact that people started doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Now, Nebuchadnezzar's grandson happened to be placed in charge for a certain period of time, partially because his dad really didn't want to be king, and he was off trying to fight the Medes and the Persians. But little did they know that during that time, the Medes and the Persians had a very different plan for Babylon. Even as we look at it, we're talking about people that were related wanting to get other people off the throne and actually put in their own people. Now, he had a lot of plans. He had a lot of things that he wanted to do, but didn't really think about what he was going to do. He'd gotten notice that his dad had been taken captive, but he didn't want to believe it. Instead, what he decided to do is he decided to throw a party. He decided to throw a party while he knew that the Medes and Persians were coming, and even with that, how that they'd already been outside the walls for several days already. He told the people that were standing on the walls to tease them a little bit with throwing down food and beverages, because Babylon was known that they could last for years upon years from a siege and still be fine. So he said to his whole nation, the whole city, "We're fine. We've got nothing to worry about. We have been kept safe in this city by the ancient gods, and not a single person will breach these walls. They won't hurt us at all. We're going to have a celebration. Not only are we going to have a celebration, but we are going to go into the very center of everything, and we're going to bring out all the good stuff. No stops are going to be held back." So he had this party planned down to the letter. So excited, but at the same time, he was so young and he loved his parties. They knew that it was going to last a while, only overnight, so it didn't want to do too much. But what they didn't realize was that the writing was on the wall already, and that their destruction was imminent. The very fact that what they didn't understand was that the Medes and Persians had already started to divert the river down below in a different way so that they could actually come underneath the walls and the gates of the city. All this was happening while they were planning, while they were there in the very throne room itself, throwing an extravagant party that Babylon had never, ever seen before. The best of the best, the elite of the elite, you name it, they were there. Oh, they were having so much fun. The best food, the best drink, the best everything at their disposal. Some said to themselves, there's too much best here. We probably better call it a night and get some actual rest. What they didn't realize was that very fact actually saved their lives, and they saw that the next day. Now they continued with this party, and you could call him the governor, he called himself the king. He said to himself, I think there's something missing. I remember specifically some gold and silver, amazing goblets there in the treasury that my grandpa brought back from Jerusalem. I want you to go get those for us. We're going to have an amazing toast to our gods at their God's expense. He didn't realize that what he was doing was going to cost him his life. They hand out the cups and pour the wine, and so excited for this toast, and they raise the goblets and toast to the gods of silver and to gold and to bronze and of wood and to stone. All of a sudden, they feel a chill in the air. They realize that all of a sudden the things in the room were starting to look different. The light was different. The food tasted different. Their hair was standing up on ends. And they started to notice a hand that had no body, started writing on the wall above their heads. And when the hand finished its writing, just as it came, it disappeared in the same way. They had no idea what to do with that. Their blood ran cold. Their faces went white. They didn't know. The king himself said, "Hey, go, bring in the people that can understand. Bring in the magicians, the sorcerers, the Chaldeans. Bring in everyone that's anyone for understanding." Some of these people would have even been the very people standing before Nebuchadnezzar in their younger days, trying to explain away something that wasn't and almost got killed themselves. They came in, they realized because of what they went through with Nebuchadnezzar that this was God himself, that there is no way that they could explain it away. They tried to. The king even forced them to. Said, "Hey, listen, if you do this one thing for you, I will make you third ruler in the kingdom of Babylon." The only way that he could do this was the fact that he was underneath his father. He was the prince regent, who happened to be calling himself king at the moment. "I'll make you a ruler. You just do this for me." They didn't know what to do. All of a sudden, some people say it was his mom. Some people say that it was his grandma. But all we know is that the king mother comes walking in. And all the room goes quiet. He does too, because he knows he's in trouble. She looks at him and she goes, "Okay, boy, what did you do this time?" And he goes, "What did I do? What didn't I do?" He told her the story, and she shook her head and she started crying and looked at him saying, "Did the stories of your grandpa not enter your head? Have you learned nothing, boy? You don't mess with the God of the Israelites. He is the true God. But even more than that, your people will not be able to help you. They can't do anything. They are worthless with their interpretation. Your grandpa knew that. At least he had some brains to use." Prince Regent didn't know what to say. He didn't know how to respond. Finally, he took a breath and said, "Well, you're right. I'm wrong. What should I do?" She looked at him and she said, "There is only one man that is still alive that I know of. I'm pretty sure he's still alive. We'll have to go and see. But go and get Daniel. He has the power of God himself of being able to understand what was written on that wall." So he orders the guards, to go and get Daniel. Maybe, just maybe, this man will be able to help us to understand what's written on this wall. Little did he know he wasn't ready for what actually was written. Daniel came, and while Daniel looked old, Daniel was still very young. Daniel looked old because of his beard and his hair, but his body was still as fit as it was when he came into Babylon. He came walking in, standing straight as a pole. He saw the cups and he started crying because he knew where those cups had come from. And he turned, and his face, you could see the righteous anger coming from Daniel. The Prince Regent said, "Oh, if you'll..." And Daniel said, "No, I don't want any recognition. O king, this is what I will tell you. The God that I serve is an amazing God. He does amazing things. Even your grandpa understood that, and he obeyed God. But you have decided to go against God, and this is what God has said." And he starts to interpret what's written on the wall, and he says, "O king, this is what God has to say to you. Today you have been weighed in the balances, and you have been found wanting. Your life will be accounted for this." King grew paler. He didn't even know what to think. My life is going to be called for? Daniel put up a hand and said, "But that's not all. This kingdom has been destroyed. It is now going to be given to the Medes and the Persians. Babylon is no more." As Daniel said that, the room got colder. People got afraid. People started screaming. People ran here and there because they heard that the Medes and the Persians had burst through the river gates. Little did they know that someone inside had actually left the gate wide open. Plans were already in place, but even more, what God had said was actually coming to pass. Daniel had nothing to fear because he knew that God was leading, and he stood strong. He smiled and he kept firm. Prince Regent called for the guards to bring the clothes, to bring the chains, to proclaim Daniel as third ruler. But what he did next was what he probably shouldn't have done. He ran out and he ended up dying in running away to try to defend his kingdom. Cyrus had sent Darius to be over Babylon while he was away. The first thing Darius did as he came in is he told them to lock up all the people that had been having high positions, and they saw Daniel. They were just about to throw him in jail, and Darius said, "Whoa, hold on just a second. Who are you? You look familiar." And he told them who he was, and, "Oh, I remember you when you came to Persia. Oh, we need to talk." Darius and Daniel walked out talking. Little did people know that because of their relationship before, Daniel was going to be a major part in what Darius was about to be doing. But little did Daniel know that within the next couple years, not only would he be touching the nation again with the message of God, but he would be showing the nation that sometimes God speaks through the mouths of cats, through the mouths of lions, allowing us to go through the fires, to be tested through the waters, and even then not be touched, because he is with us, and he will go with us step by step, no matter what. Daniel kept believing in faith, knowing that God had a plan, and that God was ultimately going to see him through.